So I was watching a YouTube video the other day, which seems to have become my thing, but this video spurred an interesting thought. See, the person was talking about gaining their first 1,000 subscribers and how it felt more fulfilling than their first 1 million. And I thought to myself, surely that can't be true. I mean, how could that possibly be? And this had me thinking about the insatiability of humans, and not even in a good or a bad way. Even though a neutral stance is something I'm trying to avoid these days, sometimes it's good to have actual opinions, but it's in the way that we seem to always want something. We think to ourselves, if only I had X, then I'd be great. I'd stop being so sad, I'd stop being so anxious. But then we get X, we're happy for a bit, until Y comes along. At least this has been my experience. Earlier in the year, I wanted X, which at the time was a new job. So then I did get the job. Then eventually I started wanting more. I started wanting Y. Y came along and overshadowed this X that I had been wanting. And I wasn't sure if that made me a terrible or an ungrateful person. Fortunately, I came across the concept of hedonic adaptation. Picture this. You've been pining after X for months. You finally buy it or even get it as a gift and it's great. You get that dopamine boost and you walk on sunshine. But after a day or two, the happiness seems to plummet. You become used to it. Life BX before X suddenly seems like a distant memory, one you can't really imagine, and each day rolls into the next as the mundane resumes. Hedonic adaptation, also known as the hedonic treadmill, is basically the tendency of humans to return to a set point of happiness regardless of what happens to them, especially positively. Let's call set point 0. Although it has been theorized that set point 0 isn't static throughout one's life and is usually genetically determined. Coined by two psychologists, Brickman and Campbell, they followed the lives of people that had won the lottery and, well, people that didn't, the rest of us. Over a certain period of time, it eventually showed that there was no significant difference in the level of happiness of both groups. Now, I know, win me the lottery first, and then we'll see. But with hedonic adaptation, there are different levels. And this concept could explain why we might think that a salary increased more money and therefore more happiness, until we suddenly realize that there are more things that we could buy and that we suddenly want. It never truly stops. So why do we do this? Well, it turns out it has some protective reasons. First off is that it kind of helps us to not be complacent about our goals and life in general. The ability to move on to another goal or task is necessary for advancement. Also, on the flip side, it helps us to accept the things we can't change. I mean, if we're so accepting of the positive, perhaps we can also be equally accepting of the negative and move on as fast as possible. But in general, it just helps to redirect our efforts towards achieving tasks. Anyway, in my humble opinion, this concept isn't necessarily a bad thing, but as always, and with humans, things go wrong when it becomes excessive, which we kind of tend to do. So, is there a solution? I mean, gratitude, contentment, a lack of motivation to achieve bigger and better things. How do we escape this treadmill? Most research has focused on meditation techniques, and most notable is the loving kindness one. I don't know that much about it. I haven't tried it, but of course it's important to stay grounded by being grateful. Sometimes it helps to recall what it was like to want the said thing in order to really appreciate the fact that we've gotten it, and that's part of the beauty of living in the present. The very good news is there is quite a number of internal circumstances under your voluntary control. If you decide to change them, none of these changes come without real effort, by the way. your level of happiness is likely to increase lastingly. So update, I did get Y and I'm happy and grateful and content, but I'll admit Z looks really appealing right now. Alright, thank you so much for watching. My name is Ojuolape. I'm a doctor and creative living in Nigeria. Please subscribe if you haven't and click on the bell to stay notified. Please share any thoughts you might have on this concept, always wanting more and never seeming to be satisfied. Is there anything that has worked for you? I will see you in the comments.